I never thought loneliness could feel this heavy. My husband Richard is 15 years older than me, and somewhere between his endless business trips and the way he barely looks up from his phone anymore, our marriage turned into polite routine. We still share the same king-sized bed, but the space between us feels wider than the ocean. 38. I still turn heads when I walk through the grocery store, but the only person who seems to notice is the one person who's not supposed to. His name is Ethan, my stepson. 22 now, home from college for the summer, and suddenly the house doesn't feel so empty. He's taller than I remember, broader in the shoulders, voice deeper. The boy who used to beg for extra screen time is gone. In his place is a man who holds eye contact a second longer than necessary, who smiles with the corner of his mouth like he knows something I don't. Started small. Compliment over breakfast. "You look good today, Sarah." Simple. Innocent. Except the way he said my name, soft, deliberate, made heat crawl up my neck. I thanked him, busied my hands with the coffee pot, told myself I was imagining things. But then came the nights Richard was away again. Ethan and I fell into a pattern. Late dinners, wine, talking about everything and nothing. He asked about my dreams, the ones I'd buried years ago. I laughed it off at first, but he listened like the words mattered. No one had listened like that in a long time. One evening the power flickered during a storm. We lit candles, sat on the living room floor with blankets and a bottle of red. The thunder rolled closer. He looked at me across the low flame and said, "You deserve more than this, you know." I pretended not to understand. More than what? More than waiting for someone who's already checked out. My pulse jumped. I should have changed the subject. I should have gone to bed. Instead I asked, "What do you think I deserve?" He didn't answer right away. He just watched me, candlelight dancing in his eyes. Then he said very quietly, "Someone who sees you. Really sees you." Silence stretched. Electric. I felt the air shift like the moment before lightning strikes. He moved closer. Not sudden. Low. Giving me every chance to pull away. I didn't. "I've wanted to kiss you for months," he whispered. "I know it's wrong. I know you're married to my dad. But I can't stop thinking about it." My mouth went dry. Every rational part of me screamed to stand up, to remind him who we were, to end this before it began. But another part, the part that had been starving for years, whispered back, just once. Just to feel something. I looked at his lips, then back to his eyes. They were steady. Patient. Hungry. My voice barely worked. "Ethan." He waited. I swallowed. Heart hammering so loud I was sure he could hear it. Then I said the word that changed everything. "Yes." The moment the syllable left my mouth, the room seemed to shrink. His hand rose slowly, fingertips brushing my cheek. I didn't flinch. I leaned in. Our first kiss was careful. Tentative. Like we were both afraid the other might disappear if we moved too fast. His lips were warm, soft, tasting faintly of wine. When I sighed against him, he deepened the kiss, hand sliding to the back of my neck, pulling me closer. Guilt stabbed sharp and immediate, but desire burned hotter. I kissed him back. Harder than I meant to. Fingers curled into his shirt. His arm wrapped around my waist. The blanket slipped to the floor. When we finally broke apart, both breathing uneven, he rested his forehead against mine. "I didn't think you'd say yes," he murmured. "I didn't think I would either." He smiled, small, almost shy. "What now?" I didn't have an answer. I only knew I wasn't ready for the moment to end. So I kissed him again. And again. And the storm outside roared on, drowning out every warning in my head. The kisses didn't stop that night. They spilled into the next days, then the next weeks. Quiet, stolen, always when Richard was gone or asleep upstairs. We learned the rhythm of the house. Which floorboards creaked, how long the shower ran, the exact time the neighbor's security light clicked off. Every moment became a calculation. Every glance across the kitchen table felt like foreplay. I told myself it was harmless at first. Just affection. Just attention. But the lie tasted thinner every time I repeated it. Because when Ethan touched me, his palm flat against my lower back as he passed behind me at the sink, his fingers tracing the inside of my wrist when no one was looking, my body answered in ways I couldn't ignore. He pulled low. My breath caught. I wanted more. And wanting it scared me as much as it thrilled me. We started talking in code. A text that read, "Coffee." Meant meet me in the laundry room in 5. Need help with groceries. Meant the garage door closed, his mouth on my neck before the bags even hit the floor. We never went too far. Not yet. But the line kept moving. A hand under my shirt became fingers brushing the edge of my bra. A kiss against the pantry door became me pressed between him and the shelves. His thigh between mine, both of us breathing like we'd run miles. The guilt was constant, a low hum under my skin. Every time Richard kissed my cheek goodnight, every time he asked how my day was in that distracted tone, the shame flared bright. I hated myself for it. I hated how alive I felt when I was with Ethan instead. The contradiction tore at me, but it never stopped me from slipping downstairs after Richard's snores filled the bedroom. One afternoon, Ethan found me folding towels in the hallway. He didn't speak. He just stepped close, took the towel from my hands, set it aside, and kissed me slow, deep, deliberate, like he had all the time in the world. When he pulled back, his thumb traced my bottom lip. "You're shaking," he said softly. "I know. You want to stop." I looked into his eyes. Dark, steady, full of something that felt dangerously close to love, and the honest answer rose before I could bury it. "No." He smiled then, small and private, the way he only did with me. "Good. Because I don't either." That night we sat on the couch after Richard left for another late meeting. TV was on, volume low. Some crime show neither of us watched. Ethan's arm rested along the back cushion, fingers playing with the ends of my hair. I leaned into him without thinking. His hand slid down to my shoulder, then lower, cupping the side of my breast through my shirt. I didn't stop him. I arched into the touch instead. "Tell me what you want," he whispered against my ear. Closed my eyes. The words felt reckless, forbidden, perfect. "Touch me. Really touch me." His hand moved under my shirt, warm palm against bare skin. He traced slow circles over my ribs, then higher, thumb brushing my nipple until it peaked. I bit my lip to keep quiet. My hips shifted restlessly. He kissed the corner of my mouth, then my throat, then lower, mouth open against my collarbone while his fingers worked me gently, patiently, until I was trembling. When I finally opened my eyes, he was watching my face like I was the only thing that existed. "I could do this forever," he murmured. I believed him. And that belief was more dangerous than anything we'd done so far. Because forever wasn't an option. Not with Richard downstairs in his office. Not with the ring still on my finger. Not with the life we were both supposed to protect. But in that moment, with his hand on me and my pulse racing under his touch, I didn't care about forever. I only cared about right now. And right now, I wanted everything he was willing to give. The storm came hard that night, wind rattling the windows like it wanted in. Richard had left for a conference 2 days earlier. Another week gone. The house felt too quiet, too full of possibility. Ethan waited for me in the guest room at the far end of the hall, door cracked just enough to spill soft lamplight into the dark corridor. I stood outside for a long minute, hand on the knob, heart slamming against my ribs. This was it. No more halfway. No more pretending the touches were accidents or the kisses were mistakes. I knew what crossing this threshold meant. I turned the knob anyway. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, looking up the second I stepped inside. No words at first. Just the sound of rain hitting glass and our breathing. Closed the door behind me. Locked it. The click felt final. He stood slowly. Walked to me. Stopped close enough that I could feel the heat coming off him. "You sure?" he asked, voice low, rough. I nodded once. "I'm sure." His hands found my face first. gentle, thumbs brushing my cheekbones, then slid down to my neck, my shoulders. When he kissed me this time it wasn't careful. It was hungry, open mouth, urgent. I matched him, fingers digging into his shoulders, pulling him tighter against me until there was no space left. Clothes came off in pieces, fast and fumbling. My shirt over my head. His t-shirt yanked free. Jeans shoved down. Underwear followed. Skin met skin and the shock of it stole my breath. Warm, solid, alive in a way I'd forgotten was possible. He lifted me onto the bed, settled between my thighs, weight braced on his forearms so he could look at me. Really look. His eyes moved over my face, my breasts, the curve of my stomach, like he was memorizing every inch. "You're beautiful," he said, and the words landed heavy, real. I reached for him, pulled him down. Our mouths met again while his hand slid between us, fingers finding me wet and ready. I gasped into his kiss when he pressed inside. Slow at first, then deeper, curling just right. My hips lifted to meet every stroke. Pleasure built fast, sharp, almost too much after so long without. When I was shaking close, he pulled his hand away. I whimpered at the loss. "I want to feel you," he whispered. "All of you." I nodded, legs wrapping around his waist. He reached between us, guided himself, pushed in slow, inch by careful inch, until he was buried deep. We both froze for a second, breathing hard, feeling the stretch, the fullness, the impossible intimacy of it. Then he moved. Slow rolls at first, savoring. Then harder, deeper. The bed creaked under us. I bit his shoulder to muffle the sounds I couldn't hold back. His hand slid between our bodies again, fingers circling where we joined, matching the rhythm of his thrusts. Heat coiled tighter in my core, tighter until I shattered, back arching, nails raking down his back, his name torn from my throat in a broken whisper. He followed seconds later, hips stuttering, low groan against my neck, pulsing inside me. We clung to each other through the aftershocks, slick with sweat, trembling. For a long time we didn't speak, just held on. His forehead pressed to mine, my fingers in his hair. The storm outside began to quiet. When our breathing finally steadied, he kissed me soft, once, twice, then eased out carefully, rolling to his side and pulling me against his chest. His heartbeat thundered under my ear. "I love you," he said into my hair. Quiet, like he hadn't meant to say it out loud. The words hit like a punch. I closed my eyes, throat tight. "Don't," I whispered. "Not yet." He didn't argue, just tightened his arm around me. I lay there in the dark, skin still buzzing, body sated, heart in chaos. Bliss and terror twisted together so tight I couldn't tell them apart. Said yes, and now there was no going back. The morning after felt like stepping into a different world. Sunlight cut through the blinds in sharp lines across the guest room floor. Ethan was still asleep beside me, arm draped over my waist, face soft in a way that made my chest ache. I slipped out carefully, pulled on my robe, and padded downstairs before the house could wake up fully. Richard's flight was due back that evening. The clock was ticking louder now. Every sound, the coffee maker gurgling, the refrigerator humming, felt like evidence waiting to be discovered. I stood at the sink staring at the ring on my left hand. It looked heavier than it ever had. Ethan came down an hour later. Hair messy. Cautious. He didn't try to touch me. Just poured coffee and leaned against the counter, watching me. "We need to talk," he said quietly. He nodded. We sat at the kitchen table like strangers who'd shared too much. "I don't regret it," he started. "Not 1 second. But I know what this costs you. What it could cost both of us." I swallowed. "If Richard finds out." "He won't. Not unless we let him. But I live with him. I sleep next to him. Every day I'll be lying." Ethan reached across the table, hesitated, then took my hand. His thumb stroked over my knuckles. "I'm not asking you to leave him. I know you won't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I also know you can't keep pretending nothing's changed." Tears burned behind my eyes. "I don't know how to go back to the way things were. You don't have to. Not completely. We sat in silence for a long time. The coffee cooled between us. When he spoke again, his voice was steady but soft. I'm going back to school in 3 weeks. I won't be here. We can decide then what this is. If it's something we keep or something we let go. I looked at him, really looked. The boy I'd watched grow up. The man who'd woken parts of me I thought were dead. The one who'd said he loved me and meant it. I don't want to lose you, I whispered. Then don't. He stood, walked around the table, pulled me up into his arms. We held each other like we were drowning. His mouth found mine one last time. Slow, tender, full of everything we couldn't say. When we broke apart, his eyes were wet. I'll always want you, he said. But I won't make you choose today. He kissed my forehead, then let go. The rest of the day passed in a haze. Cleaned. I cooked. I smiled when Richard walked through the door that night, suitcase in hand, complaining about delayed flights. I kissed his cheek. I asked about his trip. I played the part perfectly. But when he went upstairs to shower, I stood in the kitchen doorway and watched Ethan pack the last of his things into a duffel. Our eyes met across the room. No words, just a look that said everything. He left the next morning, early, before Richard was awake. I watched his car pull out of the driveway from the upstairs window. My hand pressed to the glass. My heart cracked open. Weeks later, the house is quiet again. Richard is still distant, still buried in work. But I'm different. I notice things now. The way my skin remembers Ethan's touch, the way my body wakes up in the middle of the night reaching for someone who isn't there. I don't cry as much anymore. The guilt has dulled to a constant ache, not a sharp stab. Sometimes I think about calling him. Sometimes I think about telling Richard the truth. Most days I do neither. I keep the memory instead. A storm. A bed. The whispered, I love you, I never answered. The way saying yes once changed the shape of everything that came after. I don't know if I'll ever say yes again. But I know I'll never forget what it felt like to be wanted that completely. And that somehow is enough. For now.